I'm just trying to be a better person. My name is Earl.
Welcome to First Friday 5. It's the first Friday of the month, and we're watching 5 episodes of a TV show and judging it based purely on those 5 episodes. Today's show for the month of March 2025 is My Name is Earl. As always, I'm Korbin Zvokel.
And I'm your co-host, Kody Webb.
And the 5 episodes we are discussing are Season 1, Episode 1, The Pilot. Season 1, Episode 19, Y2K, which was my choice. Season 2, Episode 12, the highest rated episode, Our Cops is On. Season 3, Episode 5, the lowest rated episode, Creative Writing. And then Season 4, Episode 27, the show's finale, Dodge's Dad. Was not supposed to be the show's finale, but let's just talk My Name is Earl in general, Kody. I know you had never seen it. Your relationship to Jason Lee prior to this year was maybe only in the Chipmunks movies, and I know you've now seen Mallrats, but you watched a lot of My Name is Earl for this, not just 5 episodes. What did you think about Earl?
I enjoyed this show more than I thought I would. And I think in the past too, you've described this show like on the pod or just to me at some point in my life. I believe I was like, that sounds like a really dumb idea. And it made me not want to watch the show. Like the premise is just simple. It literally is just a guy who, is trying to turn his life around, and he has a list of all the wrongdoings he does. And then he goes and, tries to make up for them. So I think the concept is really fun. The cast is really fun. It's a good show for me because it's just like dumb humor. So, I mean, maybe this is like your in comparison to my love for Adam Sandler, this is kind of your thing, which I really, really love. Shows your sense of humor. Yeah, I'm excited to get into it, but I liked it.
I think that might be a fair metaphor you can use, a fair equivalency.
You're right about Mr. Lee as well. I actually found out, I think today, that he's Stan Lee's son, which I actually didn't realize that, which is kind of stupid because the Mallrats connection makes a ton of sense. But yeah, before this year, like you said, I had not seen Mallrats. I had not seen this. He's the Chipmunks guy. That's who he always will be to me. And he's good in the Chipmunks movies. Shout out to my most underrated actor as well, David Cross. Chipmunk movies just have good casts. Does David Cross have a cameo in any of these seasons? Probably not.
Unfortunately, I don't think he makes a cameo. Is he actually Stan Lee's kid?
That's what I was told today. Is that wrong?
Who told you that? Someone lied to
Somebody
you?
at work told me.
I don't think that's true.
Oh, your wife's got that.
No, I think we need to call that person out by name. They're definitely not related. That's really funny.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Breaking news. Yeah, you were saying that the whole time, and I was like, I don't think they're related at all. That's really funny. Lee, common last name.
God, dude.
Unfortunately,
These I get one per episode, man. One fact check.
that person gets to come on the pod.
Let's do it. It's Ben. Their name's Ben. Come on, bro. It's not his dad.
Defend yourself.
What are we doing?
You have, of course, seen Almost Famous, though, which he does appear.
That's true.
In. So I guess there was a little bit of a connection.
That's just like a good performance, though. Like he's not, his typical self. I think he's got a little bit more of a beard too, which covers up his face. There's somebody else in that too. Maybe it was him. There's a couple of people who I was like, I didn't even recognize them in that roles, even though I know who they are. But that is a good performance from him. I think he's an underrated actor in general as well, even though he's not good in the Chipmunk movies, but nobody is.
Hey, David Cross is amazing. Watch your mouth.
True.
Most amazingly is that this show was really sold on Jason Lee. It was a pilot brought to Fox originally by the creator, Greg Garcia. He had written it, hoping to get some connection there. They weren't interested. He had worked with Fox and NBC. Basically, they said, we need a star. We like this. We'll pick this up, but you need to find a marketable guy behind it. And he had reached out to Jason Lee a few times. He said no, like twice. He was like, I will not do this. Won't even read a script. And then eventually he met with Greg Garcia, convinced him to do it. He just desperately was very anti-TV, which makes sense. This was a time when TV was very different than movies, and he saw himself as a movie star, former skater turned movie star.
And this was what, 2000, 2004, 2005?
2005. This show ran for
early.
four seasons from September 20th, 2005 to May 14th, 2009, total of 96 episodes. But it was all sold on the power of Jason Lee. And honestly, the show was a hit for the majority of its run. I'll get into some more numbers later as we get into the individual episodes. But how did this show miss you, Kody? I'm just curious. Like, how did you avoid the show in your cultural conscious?
Yeah, I'm not sure. So it was on Fox or who? What's
It was an NBC show that ran at the
NBC?
same
Okay.
time as The Office and 30
Yeah.
Rock, the same Thursday night, half hour blocks. Scrubs, which we talked about, moving over to NBC at a certain point, ends in 2009. You know what two shows start in 2009 at NBC? Community and Parks and Rec. It's an end of an era, changing of a guard a little bit for that network. And both those shows never become even as popular as My Name Is Earl, amazingly.
Wow. I'm surprised by that, actually. Shout out to My Name Is Earl. But yeah, I think it was just a little bit early for me. I never really watched The Office or Parks and Rec.
Right. We talked about that in that episode. This is, the first couple seasons of The Office.
What I was watching was probably like Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune around this time, were my obsessions.
I think the first season of Earl aired after The Biggest Loser on NBC. So if you were catching that.
I watched that. I definitely watched that growing up. So shout out. I remember seeing like commercials, and I feel like I always thought it was, some stupid stuff that I'd seen kind of for ads. So it's definitely in my cultural zeitgeist, just like watching other shows on NBC. But yeah, I legitimately don't think I had ever watched a full episode until this week, which is kind of crazy for, like you said, an NBC, like it's not a sitcom really, obviously no laugh track, but an NBC comedy, that's surprising for me because I've seen a lot of those over and over and over, and I really enjoy them.
The assignment was to watch 5 episodes, and of course you dove much deeper. But I think that's a sign of you liking it. How many did you end up watching? How much of the show did you check out?
Yeah, so I did pretty much just watch most of the first season. Your pick was episode 19. That was the last one I had watched in that season. So I watched obviously the pilot we'll talk about.
And this was in like 2 days, to be fair. Like I gave you like a couple of days warning that we were going to record, and you binged them out. So yeah, I'm impressed that you did that many.
It was 3 days. Yeah. And it's 20-minute episodes. So, I mean, the easy way to think about it is, well, not really with ads on Hulu, shout out, but like 3 episodes is an hour or so. So you can get through them pretty quick. But when it's like 22, 24 episode seasons, it's hard to grind that hard, but I did my best. And I mean, like you're saying, I kind of, the reason that is because I really did enjoy the first season as it went along. And I kind of want to watch the whole series. I guess spoiler alerts to our final thoughts, but I might continue watching it because I did enjoy it a good deal.
For me, this was a show that I have distinct memories watching on TV. It's the same thing like we talked about in the Office episode, where maybe some of it I was like, I'm 7-8 years old, living a like rather sheltered life, going to private school, but still like watching network TV and maybe picking up on some things a little early. But that's what I got instead of rated R shit that some people did. It was my limited scope of view. But I think My Name Is Earl did exist in a really interesting time, like a simpler time of network television. It was, like we said, 22, 24 episode long seasons. There's only 4 of them, but you still got 96 episodes of this because they're so short. Yeah. They're very simplistic. Abbott Elementary is the only show that's like really comparable that is any sort of hit on right now that anybody cares about or that you and I care about. And there was like, 4 or 5 shows like this on TV that had a lasting cultural impact.
And that is really fun too. That was just like an early catch for you. I mean, obviously this show is like made for adults. It doesn't take its concepts to like an extreme level where it would be like super inappropriate for kids either. Like, there's sex and there's, violence and crime, but it's all like on a jokey, fun level. So I feel like watching this as a kid would be something super nostalgic for me looking back on it as well.
I have seen the show in its entirety. At different points, I've gone back and rewatched it. It's always a bummer when you get to the end.
How many times do you think you've watched it?
Probably in full, only like 2 or 3 times. Like it's been a while since I've seen it in its entirety. And I did only just do the 5 episodes for this. But I think the reason I was allowed to watch it then, and the reason it's really stuck with a lot of people, is it does have an inherently good message. Like it's a very moral show. It's about doing the right thing. And if you do good things will happen to you. It's karma, right? And the character is so idiotic that you kind of love him. He's like a lovable idiot that it just like works for everyone. And yes, there's things that maybe don't hold up or play out as well, but it still, I think for the time, was a very accepting and loving show of a lot of different people and cultures and different experiences.
100%. I agree with that too, because they go into different avenues on subjects and stuff. And for this being like early 2000s, I feel like this is a pretty progressive show altogether. So I did enjoy that aspect of Nothing really like stood out and was like, oh, this didn't age well, which I kind of expect for mid 2000s comedies like this.
2006, 2009, like it's the end of the Bush presidency. Everyone's kind of sick of that idea of like America, but like you have a belief that people can be good and we elect Obama. And it's just like a show like this, I don't know. You couldn't bring it back now. Like just the country feels so weird, and making it like a show about a guy like Earl, like what's his political beliefs in 2025?
I guess, but there wasn't that much politics in the episodes that I saw with this.
No, there's really not, but it's it's a different time, I feel like, and it was very emblematic of America in an era.
No, that's fair. And I like that it's focused on, these really poor people as well. It's kind of like a combination of like Trailer Park Boys.
You wanted to make a trailer park show, really.
But I like that because you don't really see that a ton in sitcoms unless it's just like completely making fun of them. But these are still like redeemable characters who, I do respect Earl a lot. I'm not going to lie. Like, I think he's a good guy. So the fact that they kind of made me feel that using kind of this setting, I think is unique from different sitcoms as well. Is this a sitcom? Am I allowed to classify it as a
single camera sitcom in the same line of like Scrubs? Same kind of vibe. You haven't seen the movie Raising Arizona, but the influence is heavily felt there. Like the Nicolas Cage's look in that movie, and especially like the way there's like a gas station robbing. Sorry, it's a spoiler, but it's also the opening of the movie. Nick Cage gets arrested. Like it's the vibes of the opening of the pilot in Earl being like a gas station robber. You can see the direct influence. Camden as the city in the setting of this is really like a Springfield in terms of Simpsons, where it's like in every city in America. They shot it in California. You've got the palm trees behind them, but it could take place anywhere, it feels like.
Really? Is it not specified in like a specific state?
Yeah, they never say it. It's just Camden. Obviously, there's a real Camden, New Jersey, but that's not where this is. Like it's just, it's supposed to be, it could be anywhere.
Yeah, Jersey could claim it.
Trashy palm trees,
right? I think Jersey should claim it for their own, but that is interesting. I mean, like you said, it's kind of a Springfield situation, easy to compare to. But I'm surprised, like at any point, during the series, a state was never mentioned. So the fact that even is true is kind of cool.
You mentioned Mallrats already in your silly Stanley Jason Lee connection, but this is very Mallrats core because you've got also Ethan Suplee, who is a very small part in the Mallrats movie. I would say one of my favorite parts of the movie, where he's just the entire time trying to look at trying to find the boat in the optical illusion, and he can't find it.
Willem! Poopy trip. Brody, man, what's going on? What, do you work here now?
Oh, man, just hanging with TS.
Oh, TS.
Willem, what exactly are you doing?
Looking for the hidden picture.
If you stare at these things long enough, you're supposed to see some kind of hidden three-dimensional picture.
Oh, yeah, look, it's a sailboat.
You saw it too? Damn it!
What?
I've been staring at this thing for a week now, from opening till closing, and I can't see a goddamn thing!
You gotta relax your eyes.
Everyone sees this thing except me. But today's my day. I brought a lunch and a soda, and I'm not gonna leave until I see the sailboat everyone keeps talking about.
So, Willem, would you happen to know what this stage business is all about?
It's not a stage! I'm gonna see it if I have to go blind trying.
No, man, this stage over here.
Oh, that thing? Having some game show in the mall today. I think it's gonna be on TV. It's called Truth or Date or something.
Oh my God, that's Brandy's father's game show.
What is it?
Well, it's this cheesy dating game ripoff thing. It's supposed to be for college kids. Just trying to capture the 90s youth market with a staple of 70s television.
Man, why can't they bring back or remake good shows like BJ and the Bear? Now, there's a concept I can't get enough of, a man and his monkey.
Would you guys shut up? You're breaking my concentration.
Sorry, Willem.
Now I have to start all over again.
Good luck with that thing, Willem.
Yeah, man, remember, relax your eyes.
Wow, a sailboat.
I'm not gonna lie, that's probably my least favorite part of Mallrats. I think that's so stupid. But I really like him in this too. And I mean, he has a tougher performance just because, I mean, he's playing somebody really, really stupid. But I think he does it well, and he's just so lovable at the same time. So strong cast, but the main two of those guys do carry the majority of the screen time. And I think they're a fun brother duo. Like, they're super lovable.
it's not the reunion you would expect. You're probably not like, oh, those two guys had chemistry. They should play
Yeah.
brothers, but it does happen. You know, he's a good actor. He premieres in American History X. They also, both Scientologists during the filming of this show, and this show has gotten some allegations from people claiming it's like a Scientologist secret, like, member, like, cult show, and that Greg Garcia was a member of Scientology.
Oh, wow.
I think Alec Baldwin publicly outed Greg Garcia as a Scientologist, and he was like, that's not true. That's not me. Jason Lee and Ethan Suplee have both since left Scientology and have said, like, we don't condone, like, we're not a part of that life anymore. But for Jason Lee, he was a member for like 20 years. It ruined his first marriage. It was a big deal. Them hanging out with Tom Cruise, I guess.
Yeah, shout out Tommy Boy, but that is new information to me as well. So that's pretty crazy. But yeah, why were they both in Scientology? I don't understand that, but I guess it's good they've quit. Kind of took a while.
Jason Lee left like over like a decade ago at this point, like 2016, and he said something where he's like, I was just looking for a meaning, an answer. Like, it's the same thing anybody looks for religion, but when you're rich and you can be like go to crazy parties and be influenced by people, you go to the craziest shit. They have
good benefits. I'm sure. I don't know how religious they were with it.
I don't know. Watch Eyes Wide Shut, Cody, and you'll understand why, maybe.
I do like that movie. But yeah, that is strange. Good to know. That does affect my opinion of this show for sure, though.
He also has a kid whose name, and God bless, they're probably about our age at this point. Pilot Inspector. First name Pilot, Pilot, and then I guess their middle name is Inspector. And I think it's spelled like Inspektor.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I mean, who came up with that spelling first off? But yeah, I don't mind Pilot. It's kind of stupid. Pilot Lee. That's fun.
He has other kids who have more normal names, but that's real, like, celebrity. Like, you're on like a BuzzFeed list and you're like, what celebrities' kids have dumb names? And you're like, do you know Jason Lee, the grandson of Stan Lee, is Pilot Inspector?
Stan Lee Jr. Is his middle name Inspector too? It's probably spelled the right way though. Yeah.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Before we get into the episodes, I do want to talk about why it was canceled. Did you look into this at all? Like, what happened?
I did not at all. No. It's strange to me that a show would get canceled like mid-season like this, especially if it has 4 in front of it. It's not mid-season, it's, in between seasons, and they didn't tell them, obviously. So I find that strange.
So it feels very similar to like how Netflix shows in the last couple of years would never go past like 2 or 3 seasons. You get to the second, third season, you're only under contract initially for that, and then you get to renegotiate and they want more money, and then they're just not going to offer anybody more money and they're just going to cancel it. In the streaming world, that's really because the initial offers are so high, and then it's not sustainable at all to boost the show past like 3-4 seasons. Back then, obviously the initial like money would have been much lower. However, when they got to season 4, the studio that was making My Name Is Earl, which was 20th Century Fox, went to the network NBC and said, we would like more money, which then, of course, that would go to the cast and the crew and the writers, like, collectively more money for this show for this next season. And NBC said, no, we're good. No, thanks. And then just ghosted them, basically. And the 20th Century Fox waited 2 weeks, hoping that they would have some negotiation, some bargaining. Nothing. Went back to NBC, said, okay, we'll just take the initial deal. Like, we're fine with that. NBC said, nope. You're canceled. We've moved on. We've got, not specifically, but like, we've got Community, we've got Parks and Rec, we've got stuff in the hopper that it's going to come in and take your job. And that's how it goes, man. And Jason Lee was like, Greg Garcia showed up to set right at the end of it and was like, guys, we're canceled. Like, we're not coming back. You can clean out your lockers and this is going to be the end of it. He had an ending planned, or he had an ending for the show and a resolution to the cliffhanger that the show ends on in the 4th season planned, but we never got to see that, unfortunately.
Yeah, honestly, we need to reboot the show back, because I think it is sad that it got canceled before it can finish its overall story. At least give it a finale, one way or another, even if it's a shortened season or something. I think you always need to do that. And yeah, that is tough. I think it sounds like NBC was almost hoping that they would say something, because like you said, they had stuff on the back burner, probably ready to go, and we're trying to figure out scheduling this and that of who are we going to leave on, who are we going to take off. So it probably just made a lot of their jobs easier when they did that, but still sad. And yeah, kind of definitely weird it went down that way.
And we'll talk about it more specifically when we get to the season 3 episode, but the writer's strike happened 2007, 2008. So like there's a lot of animosity between like pre-existing creative things and studios and money. And like, I'm sure it all contributed with it. And there was going to have to be better payments already happening and people more equitably compensated for their work already. And, you know, they weren't going to fork up over any other cash in the world of capitalism and art. Of course, capitalism wins out again.
Big surprise. Who saw that coming?
Do you know what Greg Garcia did next?
No idea.
Created the TV show Raising Hope. Have you ever checked that one out, Kody?
I've not. That one I'm not as familiar with. Again, I've seen a few ads probably, but nothing ringing a bell really.
So I have done a once through Raising Hope watch, and maybe it wasn't even through to the finish because I think it might have been like when it was on at one point when I was in high school. But in a hey, I really like My Name Is Earl, and I want to find something with a similar kind of comedic style and also just like heart to it. It is kind of a spiritual successor to the Earl kind of brand and in like I said, style. There's also a lot of Easter eggs and references. The majority of the My Name Is Earl cast like appear in different episodes as cameo characters or, you know, guest starring appearances. In the first episode, the pilot of Raising Hope, there's a scene in a kitchen where a TV's playing and it's a newscast and they go,
and in lighter news, a small-time crook with a long list of wrongs he was making amends for has finally finished. And you'll never guess how it ended.
That's awesome.
And then there's a bunch of other references. There's a funny clip, which I'll play here.
Which one is from NBC?
Oh, that's for canceling My Name Is Earl!
That was 8 network presidents ago. I loved it.
So they're always, you know, getting their licks in over on Raising Hope. But Greg Garcia, a really funny guy, and I would recommend checking out. Maybe we'll do a first Friday 5 of that show down the line.
I love that. Put it on the list. It's in the same universe in a sense, almost like it's a spin-off show with that TV, which I really, really like. So let's check it out. That's fun.
One of the guys from No Country for Old Men, Dillahunt, you know this guy if you looked him up, the main character Raising Hope.
Shout out to him. Isn't there a main girl in Raising Hope?
There is a main girl. It's like it's a family show.
Is it a Raising Arizona sequel?
Maybe a little bit. It's basically, yes, like these two a younger couple has to raise a baby and then they like go to their parents to like help them out. And I think the baby is the reason they have it is, yeah, it's like the baby's mom is in prison or something. Yeah.
Maybe it was Joy. That is cool though. Shout out Greg Garcia.
Shout out to Greg Garcia. Speaking of Joy won an Emmy for her performance. Jamie Presley, Margot Robbie lookalike, maybe won an Emmy, Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series at the 59th Primetime Emmy Awards.
Wow. For what, season 1? Season
2, I believe.
Wow. Okay. Shout out there, man. From the episodes I've seen, I don't know if I would give her, that nomination or award, but it's pretty cool. Was Earl ever noms? Any Jason Lee noms?
No, unfortunately not. Would you like to know who she beat out?
I would actually, yeah.
A little lady named Jenna Fisher from The Office.
Oh, wow. Robbery.
Snub. Vanessa Williams in Ugly Betty. Holland Taylor in 2.5 Men. Conchata Farrell in 2.5 Men. And Elizabeth Perkins in Weeds. So maybe not a stealth category.
Yeah, so some okay competition and then some not okay competition, but probably Jenna Fisher got robbed. I mean, that's probably like what, season 2, maybe season.
Yeah, it's also like season 1, season 2 of The Office. So
if it was season 1, that's fine. But if it was season 2, that is robbery of Jenna Fisher. But shout out to her. Yeah, probably was a tight race, but probably went to the wrong person. But that's fun.
At the year prior's Emmys, the 58th Emmys, and this will throw it to the pilot episode here in a second, but it won both Outstanding Writing and Directing in a Comedy Series. So they really love the pilot, and I think it is a very solid pilot.
I agree. I think, like I said, the first season altogether, I did enjoy a lot. And I think it's a good start, for sure.
Let's talk about the theme song. Now, this is a little bit of a weird situation. We've had a couple of these where the show doesn't necessarily have a theme song. And even in most of the episodes we watch, they just like completely lop it up and just show you the title card of My Name Is Earl. But there is an opening monologue that I will perform for you now.
You know the kind of guy who does nothing but bad things and then wonders why his life sucks? Well, that was me. Every time something good happened to me, something bad was always waiting around the corner.
Karma. That's when I realized I had to change.
So I made a list of everything bad I've ever done, and one by one, I'm going to make up for all my mistakes.
I'm just trying to be a better person. My name is Earl. I don't think I quite hit it. My life sucks. My name is Earl.
No, that was perfect. My name is Earl. I think you nailed it. Get a little bit work with the mustache, and it'll be identical.
That's true. I think maybe I can get a little Jason Lee energy. I could make it happen. I'll shave. I can't get the hair. That's for sure.
What are your thoughts on the theme song, though? Do you like it?
I like the generic score of the show. Like, I think it's fun. It's a little, bluegrassy, rustic. But this is definitely probably at the bottom tier of our show themes, I would say. What about you?
Yeah.
Are you a fan?
It's okay. I kind of like you said, I like the music involved, but it's just so quiet. Like, I feel like it doesn't even count as a song, really. And then I like the idea, like the concept of it, too, explaining, the list, which I think is my favorite part of the series, honestly. And Karma, which I know is probably your favorite part. But I think it's okay. It's not really a song, so it's hard to rank compared to these other ones.
I think it is very short and simple storytelling. And if you had never watched an episode of the show and you wanted to jump into a random one, if you catch that 30-second bite, okay, you get the general idea. This guy used to suck. Now he's trying to be better. You see him get hit by the car. You see him riding. It shows you the visual beats. It tells you auditorially, and you're just ready to be watching, whatever random episode rerun of My Name is Earl. And God, that's the beautiful. This is why I don't watch TV anymore, because they don't make shit like this anymore.
Also, I mean, do you think My Name is Earl is a good title? Why is that the title?
It's a funny name. Earl.
I agree too. It makes it really nice if you're jumping into a random episode. You get the premise. This is the show every episode. You don't need to know anything really from any other episodes. You could jump in at any time. But it's just not really a theme song. So.
I mean, we've had a couple of these, to be fair, like Avatar: The Last Airbender. The Star Wars: The Clone Wars television show also, features kind of an opening monologue as its theme. Gossip Girl.
But they have more music.
It's Gossip Girl.
I feel like there's no music. Maybe I missed the music. It's twangy, just it's the stuff that's throughout every episode, so it's kind of just background. But yeah, I don't think it compares to Avatar: The Last Airbender very well at all. But I don't think it's that far. I think it's better than Gossip Girl for sure. That's not very good.
Right above Gossip Girl is the Clone Wars. So of course we've got the motif of Star Wars, John Williams kind of inherently built into that, but that only gets you so far.
I barely even remember the Clone Wars one.
It's just the Galactic Republic is and
that is pretty great. I think that's got to be better, just for that guy's voice alone. But yeah,
that's fair.
I think. Would you agree? I mean, you think it's better than Star Wars or no?
I think they're very closely intertwined. It's definitely not better than New Girl, which is right above it. So I'll put it below Star Wars because My Name is Earl.
Just for you doing it so perfectly, we can put it above if you want, but I don't care.
Nah,
your rendition of it was a 10 out of 10.
Well, that would obviously go above Succession, which is at the top of our list. Just a reminder of our ranking. If you have any problems with these, Kody, that sucks because it's been decided. Number 1, Succession. Number 2, Psych. Number 3, The Office. Number 4, Parks and Rec. Number 5, Avatar. Number 6, Seinfeld. 7, New Girl. 8, Clone Wars. 9, Earl. 10, Gossip Girl. 11, Scrubs. 12, National Treasure. The whatever that TV show was called, I don't remember. 13, The Curse, and 14, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. way down there, which is pretty sus. But I think we have 9 good ones. I like how our list is progressing to where our top 10 is about to be very elite. So I like that placement.
We'll see what the next month's pick is, or whatever month we end up doing the next one is.
Whatever month we choose, really.
We could technically rank the Cops theme song in here as well, because we do get an episode of Cops, but maybe we'll save that for Cops for Friday 5.
That could be our next month. Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Is Cops ended? Is there a finale?
How many seasons are there? 200?
Yeah, 276.
I've never watched an episode. The only episode I watch of Cops is the My Name Is Earl episode.
Thanks for listening to the episode. You can follow the rest of our happenings over here at Kody and Korbin Have a Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Cap Podcasts, KHAPODCAST. Please follow us on Spotify, give us a rating, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow along for more. Well, let's get into our episode breakdown. Starting with the pilot, season 1, episode 1. Guess how many millions of viewers this episode had in its premiere? Just give me
in 2005. I don't even know what's a reasonable number. I'll say like what, 3 million, 4 million. It's a lot of people.
14.9 million viewers.
It's a lot of people watching Earl.
The Office only passed that number once in its entire run.
I mean, that's wild, bro. I don't understand why was the viewership on My Name Is Earl so high.
And the only time the viewership for The Office ever got that high was the episode that aired directly after the Super Bowl, the stress relief episode, which is obviously already just like an amazing episode, which reached like 20 million viewers, but it was straight after the Super Bowl that everyone was watching. The unfortunate thing, The Office ran for a long time, but even at the end, you know, it's 8 seasons, a lot less people are watching network TV. Also, you got to have the dedication of like sticking around for 8 seasons to really be watching it. But shit was different back then. And My Name Is Earl was really kind of right at the end of it. I'll hit even at the end some final season numbers in comparison to shows that aired after it, but we'll save that for the 5th episode here.
It's kind of like right before like what the phone boom and the iPhone boom. So I think just back in those days, like TV was a massive deal. Just obviously in today's age, it's almost non-obsolete just because we have a billion other things to entertain us. But
well, I mean, also like what year did YouTube launch, Kody?
Yeah, no, I mean that's
2005.
That's an important factor as well. So yeah, probably just a lot more mouths to feed from an entertainment perspective, which I mean that's really cool that a show like this got that, but I am surprised like the viewership numbers were that high.
The early season even averaged like 10 million viewers, which is greater than any episode of 30 Rock ever. No 30 Rock episode, which was airing at like the same time. So this show's a hit, man.
It's a hit.
I'm putting you on to some real shit.
People love it. Maybe this will be a big episode for us, man. Everybody watches the show, evidently.
This is why he was the fucking lead of Alfred and the Chipmunks, because the show is so fucking big. Like,
oh, wow.
We gotta get him.
Got him the role of a lifetime, too. So
how much money do you think Chipmunks made?
I mean, the whole franchise or just the first one? First one. Again, numbers, this could be way off, but when did that movie release? Like 08? Half a bill? No, it didn't.
All right.
300 mil?
365 worldwide, and then the sequel
wasn't too far off.
440 worldwide. So I mean, it almost cracked the half.
It's $1 billion franchise for sure.
And that was 2007. So this is right on, like, this is prime Earl. He had to shave and then grow the mustache back for this show.
True.
In there.
It would have been better with the mustache, I think, for sure. Did we ever get any fake mustaches in Earl filming? I hope not.
I don't know, but it would kind of look like he has a chipmunk on his face.
I think that's why it would look better. He would look like a chipmunk himself too. I don't know.
He would be more trusted by Theodore, I imagine, for sure. This pilot episode that we're talking about here for the first one, like I said, won an Emmy both for directing and writing, which is rare that both. It was up against writing wise, the Office Christmas Party episode of season 2, the season finale of season 3 of Arrested Development. So really the series finale of Arrested Development, and then a couple Entourage episodes, I think, for best writing, and it beat those. And then for best directing, it was up against a Curb episode, an Entourage episode, a Weeds episode, and then The Comeback, which is some HBO thing that I'm not even familiar with. But the pilot, this episode, which I think is very concise storytelling, beat them all out. Do you think it was probably deserving? And what did you think of the pilot when you watched it?
I did like the pilot. I think it's solid. I don't know if it's deserving to win like all these awards and stuff, but I think it does set up, this series very, very well. Just obviously, like you said, the whole karma thing. It's very compelling where there's high stakes, the lottery ticket. You really feel that emotion of you put yourself in that spot of you finally, after all these years of bad luck, hit the lotto, and then you get stuck by a grandma in a car and you end up losing it. Like, I feel like that's just, you can put yourself into that so easily. But then just like the fun, changing of kind of a mindset and stuff. And it is a really good character and really good performances. So I agree, it's good writing and good directing. 20 awards, I don't know. Maybe I'm not on as bored, but again, I think maybe I'm just underestimating the show altogether because it's a hit. But I don't know. Those episodes against it though weren't that strong either. So I don't hate it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The random Entourage episode didn't compel you enough.
Yeah, maybe they should have won, but everybody else was not that great. That Office Christmas, not even the best Office Christmas by a long shot. So
That's fair. They were still getting rolling early. They were figuring things out. It's so short and concise and simple. It sets up the show perfectly. It is a true pilot in the sense of like, we're just gonna write this script and plan and hope that we can do a show based around this, but you don't really know for sure. There's seeds of things that are kind of mentioned, or seeds of characters that return later. He mentions like stealing a car from a one-legged woman. She appears later in other episodes. Characters like Kenny appear later. Crabman, Joy, like those characters are fleshed out further as the series runs along. They didn't have a full idea of what they wanted to do, but very early on they understood. Here's the list. He's got 259 things on it in the pilot. So that gives us enough room where we can just keep adding shit and making shit up and creating a week to week, almost serialized thing. That's like, he's crossing off another thing. It doesn't really matter if you follow the entire chronology.
I mean, the pilot, it does feel exactly like the rest of the series, which for other sitcoms we've talked about, I mean, The Office and Parks and Rec, the pilots really don't hold up kind of what the rest of the series is. And I think that's kind of almost the complete opposite in this case. So from that perspective of like, it is a very strong start, I think, to a sitcom of this style. I mean, it is just massive exposition dump at the beginning too. And a lot of it is just like confusing in general, especially like how Joy and Earl got married. I feel like they just did a shotgun wedding with a girl you didn't know was 6 months pregnant. That was pretty wild.
But that's the kind of guy Earl is. He's a drunkard. He doesn't know what the hell's going on.
It lets us know a lot about him, to be fair, and who he was before this list. But I like the intro to Randy as well, Tom, where it's just like some rando pushes a button on the jukebox and it's his favorite song, so he's got to get up and start dancing.
And it's the perfect callback at the end of the episode.
It's midnight, boys, and that means it's time to take it old school.
Right about now, you're about to be presented.
Oh, no, you didn't. Tell me you didn't just go old school.
And DJ Easy Rock.
Hit it.
Never underestimate 15 beers, a little enlightenment, and the power of raw bass and DJ Easy Rock.
Yeah, I love that. Going into like the karma stuff too. I do like that concept. I like how it plays with that idea, but like it also plays with the fact that he doesn't know anything about, the religion associated with it.
Yeah, what's your take on Carson Daly? the teacher, the giver of the way, the shower of the path for Earl, teaching him about karma.
So random, and I wonder if that is like a real interview or that it was just used for the show. I hope it was just used.
I think I was trying to go, like, I could not find it. It's Trace Adkins, I believe, there with him.
Okay.
And I think it was filmed specially for this.
Okay.
This, and then I think Carson Daly would go on to host The Voice. That was like my Carson Daly experience. That's right. But he had a TV show, obviously, at the time, and he was on, he hosted like TRL or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a big Daly guy.
Does he ever appear again in the series or no?
Yes, he does make some appearances.
I want to watch those episodes specifically. But yeah, I really just love the concept of it. And like you said, it really is, it's a heartwarming, show about like a good guy. And this episode does that really well of, even though like this guy's stupid and he's done a bunch of crap in his past, which is, also kind of funny, it's still somebody you can root for and you want to kind of see succeed. So I think they did a really good job just with the performance of Earl and the characterization altogether too.
Yeah, he manages to be extremely sympathetic because he is not an inherently hateful person. He's just kind of a person with a really shitty circumstance who, took the easy route and did a bunch of terrible and crappy things to people. But deep down, he's not like evil, right? Like, he's not a fucking serial killer. He's just kind of a jackass dummy.
Yeah, he's just some poor guy who has had some bad luck and was a dick during his childhood. But the last thing I want to mention too, the other actress, Catalina, she's also in The League. She's an actress from The League. She plays Ruxin's wife. So when I saw her, I was like, oh, I know who that is. But I really like that she was in another show, sitcom wise, similar to this, because I think she is underrated in her comedy in The League. And we'll talk about the other episodes too, but her role, I feel like, was always changing. But I like her in her prime in season 1, when she was just like a maid at the hotel and it was literally just like hanging out with Randy and Earl every day. I think that's her prime form. So I really liked her a ton in this episode. Some of the other ones that we'll talk about, I thought her storyline was kind of ass. So I want to shout her out in this one for sure.
She is really fun. Like, I think all the ensemble of characters, probably Crabman's my favorite, Darnell.
Yeah, he's great.
I think they all just interplay really fun together. Where they end up going with Catalina's character, maybe in the later seasons, a little bit unfortunate, but we'll talk about that when we get there.
For sure. And it's Nadine,
Eddie Steeples, and Nadine Velasquez.
Shut up. I don't know their names, but I should, because they are probably my 2 favorite performances in the show, other than Jason Lee. I think like every time those characters are on screen, they're just both funny, I think. So shout out to them.
So let's talk about the actual plot of this episode, which I think is pretty interesting to do right away in the first episode. He's making amends to this gay man, a closeted gay man who he bullied as a child. And obviously it presents, initially he runs away from him. It's still like, again, ends up being a like positive relationship that forms. And Kenny is a character who, maybe appears as a stereotypical gay guy, and it isn't like, the representation that you would love to see. It's still, at the end of the day, like a character being treated with a lot more respect than probably the average person in 2005 would. So it's cool to see that on TV.
I agree. And I did like the storyline altogether. I think the fun thing too is like the flashbacks to a younger Earl really works in a ton of these episodes, just because you can see like how much he has changed since he was a kid. It kind of sets the precedent too of like, for some of these people that Earl is going back to interact, with who he has in his past, probably not a lot of them are going to want to see him. So I think that adds to the comedy level of kind of the freakouts is something that consistently happens, and he can't even get a word out before, he's about to get his ass beat. So I like that was similar with Kenny. And yeah, his storyline was sweet at the end. I mean, Earl helped him, go to a gay bar because he's from, this middle of nowhere town with no people to, yeah, Camden, whatever state that's in. So he helps him out and is his wingman. And it's a good resolution. And Kenny shows up throughout season 1 a ton, kind of just like helping out Earl with favors and stuff. So he just becomes a friend of kind of the crew, which is nice.
Outside of the main cast and then Joy's kids, and I'm not going to say anybody else's kids because we really only know for sure Joy's kids.
True.
Kenny is like the character that appears the most. He's in 18 episodes.
Nice.
And then the only person who's in more episodes is Patty, which we also meet in this pilot episode, trying to the sex worker who gets hired to go to Kenny's house. And that, unfortunately, he's not interested in.
Yeah, blame yeah. And yeah, she's a little bit on the older end, to be fair to Kenny. But
and she does work in the daytime, which is not usually what you want. But those 2 characters are prevalent throughout the run of the show.
Like I said, they knew the show exactly what it was from the beginning. So shout out to that. Shout out to Greg Garcia.
All right, let's jump over to my pick, season 1, episode 19, Y2K, which I did pick mostly because I hadn't seen the show in a while. So I was looking through some lists, what are the best episodes? And this one was at the top of many people's lists, but I also had very vivid memories of watching specifically the grocery store stuff in this, because I think as like a kid, that is kind of like the fantasy, and a lot of these characters kind of have like little kid minds for most of the show, and maybe that's why as like a child it's fun to watch, where it's like grown-ups with the wants of a child. But like, oh, the world's over and now you just get to live in a grocery store in a basically a Walmart. That's kind of fun. It's kind of a dream. And this also was the first time I was ever introduced to the concept of Y2K, for sure. Like, I had no idea what that was prior to this, but I learned all about it because of this. Where did you learn about Y2K, Kody? Was it last year in the Kyle Mooney, Rachel Zegler starring film?
I still haven't seen it, unfortunately, but I really do want to. It's got to be coming to streaming soon. I almost rented it the other day, actually. But I don't know where I learned about Y2K.
Maybe in
Um,
2000 when you were a 1-year-old little baby.
when they
6 months
attacked,
old.
yeah, that's when I found out. But this is a really fun intro to it because, like you said, it does. This episode has like Walking Dead vibes for some of it. I feel like they feel like they're at the beginning of this apocalypse, and I 100% agree. I think that is a really fun thing to do. Have them just live at the grocery store, because I mean, one, it's fairly safe. You know, you're in a massive building, and it's any little kid's dream, like you said. I mean, you have everything you need to exist in one store. So I really love the setting and just the overall vibes of they are legitimately convinced they are like the last survivors on Earth. So I mean that gives them the freedom to do whatever they want in their heads, which there is a massive stakes because that's not the case. But it does kind of enhance the comedy, I think, a lot when they're doing stupid stuff, and eventually somebody's going to walk in and see these weird trailer people just hanging out and sleeping in a Walmart or something. I just think that's really funny conceptually.
And the show often has flashbacks. There's a flashback in the pilot, but it's fun to do an episode that's almost entirely in flashback. Having the setup being, here's an item on my list, but now we're going to give you the explanation for how it happened. You see that at different points throughout the run, but this is over the course of a full episode. We're going to really extend it out and make the joke full. I do love the series of events that have to happen to get them there. Like, their power goes out because the bill doesn't get paid. So then they think it's Y2K. And then there's a bunch of fireworks that they never knew existed because they're normally passed out by midnight. And then the next day, everybody's gone at a parade because normally they're still passed out the next day on New Year's and they don't ever know about it. And then the store is still closed on January 1st. That's why nobody ever shows up. So it's just like these dumb little domino effects of they never see anybody and they think it's the apocalypse. What section would you claim, Kody?
I mean, back then, that's where everybody went. Probably the electronics section, but good backup. Yeah, you have to. I mean, especially at that age. But I mean, yeah, food that would probably be my number two. The snack section, I guess, Jason Lee's. But I do agree too, like because obviously this is the last episode of season 1 that I watched, but I watched 17, 18 in between. This is the first on like just full on flashback episode, which I thought was really fun. The person who does pop up, who I really liked, he's an actor from Prison Break. He plays like
Silas Weir Mitchell.
Yeah, that guy. I think he's really fun in Prison Break. He plays crazy people really well. I like how in the flashbacks they incorporate him a ton. Kind of just anytime you want to tell a story from the past, you can just throw in an extra actor just for fun. But I think Catalina got shafted for sure in this episode. I think her storyline is interesting. I've obviously heard her sneaking into the country, but like comedy wise and the way they did it, every time it kind of cut to her, it just felt like something that wasn't really needed in the episode. And it didn't really tie into anything with the other group either. So I didn't love that, but everything in the story, like we were saying, everything with the fake out apocalypse, I guess I just don't buy that they wouldn't ever stay awake to see the fireworks. I think that's the least believable one. The Hangover one, you don't even have to sell me on, and not paying the bill is super funny. But I mean, I feel like when you drink, you typically like stay up longer, right? So I don't know, unless they were taking 10 shots at noon or something every year, which is a possibility in this family. But I just think that's the least believable part about it for me.
They definitely do seem like people who probably could manage to stay up till midnight, but what do I know?
At least one time in like the past, 30 years. Or
their
they're
entire
old.
lives.
They're old too. It. Yeah.
Wow,
when they were kids, they passed out every year. I mean, come on.
You're not far from Jason Lee's age in season 1 of My Name Is Earl. I bet, Kody. Silas Weir Mitchell, I wanted to say I know from the show Grimm, which he appeared in 123 episodes of.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
He's only in 5 episodes of My Name Is Earl, and we did see 2 of them, which is pretty interesting.
Really? Yeah.
He's really only there for a couple, but he makes his crazy eyes very well known in this.
He has elite crazy eyes. I forget his nickname in Prison Break. It's like Electric or something stupid, Zap or something like that.
Haywire.
Yeah, Haywire. There you go. I was kind of close, but yeah, he's a psycho in that. So shout out to him.
Haywire makes sense then. Darnell also, I think, gets a little screwed in this episode. You kind of get to see his maybe CIA, you're Harry Monroe, but you're now, Darnell kind of
I'm very
backstory.
confused.
Get into a little bit in season 4, but a lot more questions for sure.
Yeah. And that was the first time in season 1 anything like that was mentioned, where he's in some sort of like witness protection program. And yeah, his name's Harry, which is just a stupid name. So I didn't really love that part either. Like I said, I mean, those two of my favorite side actors in the pilot. In this one, just not given as much to do, but kind of gives the core group just kind of the entire episode, which I don't hate.
Yeah, you did talk about the Catalina thing, and it's unfortunate that just due to like the story, she obviously wasn't there at the time. It is interesting to see like this character who is an illegal immigrant on screen through the run of this TV show that, like, again, like now what would that plot line play out like? How would people, accept that as a character? It's so silly because it's just like, she's a fucking person who's trying to, live in this country. But even in the episode, it's played as like slapstick humor when a sniper is shooting at them, when now that's just kind of like, oh, that feels dark because that's kind of the shit that happens.
I do agree with that. I think in today's day and age, it would be a much different storyline, I think, for sure. And then also talking about politics too, shout out to my boy Randy for becoming president of the new world. I thought that was a great election. I don't know. I can't think of anybody better to run this country, especially in today's age.
I wouldn't vote for Haywire. That's fucking for sure.
That's an easy vote, yeah. But I thought it was really funny too that he got stuck in the head with like a can right before he got elected, which is obviously friendly fire from Jason Lee, but that'd be pretty tough. I don't know if I could take a hit like that and get back up. So Randy's a boy just for that.
It's also funny because like all this shit just happens in one day. Like they devolve into this madness in literally one day. But that's how society will fall apart. It'll be quick.
But they bring it back together as well with
that's true.
This
that's true. Well, if you have a good leader like Randy Strong, can lead the people through the broken, crumbling society. It's possible, but you either need Rick from The Walking Dead or you need Randy. If you don't have one of those guys, you're fucked.
I'll take Randy any day of the week. I'll be honest.
Absolutely,
his system's elite, man. Yeah, take a number. If it's your turn, it's your turn. If it's not, wait another day, man.
And understandable why he wouldn't want to give it up in the future or in the present.
I think that one, out of everything on the list, why is that on the list? Like,
did they really need it back that badly? Or couldn't they've gotten it? Couldn't you have bought him a new one?
Yeah, just pay them back for the store that you ruined and all the stuff that you ate and used. But yeah, man, I mean, that's your guys's ticket taker or whatever. I didn't understand that much, but it set up the episode.
Yeah, I thought the president had like all sorts of immunities and powers that they could do with that. You think Randy would be able to set things up?
What is also the apocalypse? There was going to be 2 presidents, which could happen, I guess, in our world too, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Let's jump on over to season 2, episode 12, the highest rated episode. Our Cops is on, which I think is a really funny one, where they're literally just watching an episode of Cops, but it is set in the city of Camden with all the characters in the entire town. And I think the fun thing about this is like, some shows will do like clip episodes where they look back or they connect with all these characters. This is just like, we're going to take you to every character and have met up until this point. And we're going to, bring them back and have all these funny little reminders and little interplay of bits, but it's going to be set in the backdrop of the TV show Cops, which I think especially is just like pure 2000s culture at its finest. And maybe it's worse.
True. I do love this episode, honestly, and it makes sense to me that this is the highest rated for sure. Well, it's really fun from just a meta perspective of they're watching a Cops episode and they're on the episode, but obviously we're in the TV show watching them watch it. So I really love that. But also the fact that in some of these other episodes, I feel like you don't get a ton of fun stuff in their past other than just like 1 or 2 flashback scenes of them just being like full on menaces. So I really love that we get to see Jason Lee just be, one of the worst.
When Earl was bad, like getting to see Earl actually be a jerk when like, okay, he's going to have a redemption arc. So I can't feel like if it's just a bad guy being bad, you're like, whatever, but it is fun. I agree to see like, what was Earl like back in the day and what was Randy like before the list? And they were fucking menaces.
He's stealing cop cars and just robbing every store he goes to. So I really love the entertainment factor, and then obviously blending it together with they're on Cops. I mean, it's just perfect. Obviously, these are low life criminals, you know, with low life cops, kind of chasing them around and just as dumb, kind of in their own rights for a lot of the time. But I really love this. I think it just does take the comedy to a next level, just because of the style and kind of, the meta-ness of the Cops TV show is really fun.
And just anytime you're parodying another show, doing it something in its style, it's going to be well loved. They do it again the very next season, or maybe they do it in season 4.
It's season
they do
4.
it for 2. They do it for 2 episodes. Maybe a little bit, jumping the shark on that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe if you do something great, you don't always have to go back and do it again, which is a tough lesson. But like you said, it's weird that's a 2-parter as well. I feel like I just scrolling through the episode list in season 4, there was like 3 or 4 of those, which I don't always love for like 20-minute episodes. If you want to make it longer, just bust it into one and have some balls. But it's really fun in here, and like I said too, there's a ton of cameos with other people. Do you know who this local celebrity guy is that shows up in like basically every other episode? He's like an actor. In this episode, I really liked him, where he was just hammered drunk driving, and the cop just let him go, just because he's like Tim something, some small time actor. But I just think it's really funny of playing into, this is such a small town, like even some nobody who's been on TV twice is going to be like this big superstar.
He plays TV's Tim Stack, and it's Timothy Stack playing him. So like, it's the real guy.
Yeah.
He's now on the show. I guess he's most recently been on Ghosts one episode. But I don't know. He's in Scary Movie 3. Here's his 4 on IMDb: The Brave Little Toaster, Back to School, Scary Movie 3, and Son of the Beach. Whatever the fuck that is. I think the joke is that he's like a shitty TV actor. He also plays TV's Tim Stack in another show called Raising Hope, Cody. So the connection continues.
There we go. I'm gonna watch that just for his cameo. But yeah, again, it's kind of just like the meta-ness of this show is some of my favorite aspects of it for sure. And like I said, the cops are just as dumb. Like the fact that they let this actor Tim just drive off when he's completely hammered, and also when he's driving off, you hear like the school bells go off. And they're like, oh, you only have to pass a school zone, and then it's right down the street to his house. Just like stupid comedy stuff. Stupid comedy stuff like that. And when the cop pulls up to his window the first time after he crashes the car, he knocks out the window and he rolls it down. And Tim Hill, still hammered, goes, "Hello to you too. I'll have a double cheeseburger, please." And he just gets away with it. So, just the ridiculous with the cops, I think, it plays a big factor in the cops related episode too.
Yeah. The format as well of the show, it allows for like the fourth wall breaking, the looking into the camera, this turning into a, office style mockumentary type thing by the nature of it being cops. The best use of that is in Earl and Joy having sex in the back of the car and being all blurred out and being naked. Like, that's just always fun, because it's like, if they were doing the show normally, they obviously wouldn't blur them out because it wouldn't make sense. But like now they can just have them be fully naked and just blur it. And then my favorite line of the episode is Earl following.
Police! Freeze! Okay, freeze!
Oh, God! I skinned my pecker.
Hands behind your back!
I'm too scared to look. Please tell me if it's bad. Is it bad?
Oh, that's a lot of gravel.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome, dude. That I wrote that line down as well. I skinned my pecker. Just a classic. And the fact that he just stole a cop car as well. Really funny. Of course.
And it just has it. Like, it isn't really getting apprehended. It's just driving around and it pulling people over. They pull over the one-legged lady.
True. She makes another appearance. I want to see her full episode as well. I saw one where he showed up and she shot at him and stuff, but that was pretty much.
She'll come back. Haywire makes an appearance in this episode as well.
True. Everybody's in this, like you said. It's fun because, I mean, it's similar to your pick, obviously, with Y2K. It is a bunch of flashbacks. Like, these are before the characters, we're watching today. But I think this one does it a ton better. Just puts them in their prime forms, worst decision-making forms. Even Randy, he's stuck in a tree. He's singing the cops theme song. He's doing it all. So I think every character has a moment to shine here too, which is really fun.
And this episode opens with an insane like oneer shot that just goes through the bar and is like weaving. And it's just fucking Scorsese and Goodfellas. So at the highs of just doing like directorial shit like that, that's super choreographed and planned out to get to Randy watching Caps to you know, explain everything that's happening in the bar on a Sunday, and then just like parody the show. Like, you know, for one 20-minute episode, they're fucking firing on all cylinders at this point in the show.
And in that bar shot too, I mean, you get Kenny's there. You get the old hooker we were talking about. You get like all the, is Tim Hill there? He's probably in there, honestly. You get all the weird side characters. That is, you know, something that makes a show like this really fun. Like that scene surprised me at the beginning of not what I was expecting going into it either. So I did like that a lot just from the camera work.
Now let's talk about a less successful episode, season 3, episode 5, the lowest rated in the entire series, called Creative Writing. Many of the lowest rated episodes occur during season 3, primarily because they have 2 major storylines that happen. The first playing out across the beginning of the season, where Earl is in jail. At the end of season 2, he basically confesses to a crime that Joy committed and then gets himself put in jail for it. And then when he gets out, he gets put into a coma, and then he spends like 5 episodes in a coma. And then after that, there's a couple more episodes and the season ends early. A reason a lot of the shitty and weird stuff happened, the season sucks, is because the writer's strike happened. This episode ran from like September 2007 until May 2008. The writer's strike was from November to February, right in the middle of that.
That hurts.
Yeah, that's great. That's great news, right? This episode specifically cannot necessarily be attributed to the strike because it aired pre-strike. But the way TV works is they're really making each episode a week at a time. What you'll have is you'll have a writer's room that's writing an episode for the next week. You'll have a director come in shooting the episode for, you know, the week prior. And TV really works on this like very specific week to week schedule because you're shooting, you know, a lot of content over a short period of time. So what I imagined happened was they knew the strike was coming. They banked up a shit ton of episodes, wrote very quickly. And then when the strike hit, that, you know, writers' rooms are over. Anything that they did shoot during that time, they couldn't change, couldn't adjust. What they end up doing is running the show until the beginning of January and then going on hiatus. They basically hit their backlog of scripts ending. They stopped the show and then they waited until after the strike ended in April to come back. But shit suffered. The coma storyline, this episode, like, you can just kind of feel it overarching over the whole season where everything is rushed and there wasn't really a lot of chance to like adapt or change things once they were set in their ways.
And writers are very clearly the backbone for, you know, a type of show like this. So for them to be insanely rushed or, you know, on strike, obviously the show is going to suffer mightily. So yeah, that is very interesting. I didn't know about the coma storyline, obviously. Doesn't sound particularly compelling. And the prison storyline, I think, sucks too. I couldn't believe he was in prison when I clicked into this episode. Kind of just a bummer. And took me back to our Cool Hand Luke episode for a second too. Go watch that or go listen to that, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. This episode, it was just meh. It definitely kind of held up to that reputation of, like you said, not a ton of writing. It does some fun creative stuff with, like, you know, some animated sequences, you know, a singing sequence, a couple singing, or then the soap opera bit. Like, it has fun bits and ideas, but I just think that the dialogue is not as good, and the story for sure with him stuck in prison, it's just boring. You know, I don't know. Didn't love this episode.
I'll run through you with the episodes, and I know, you know, first Friday at 5, but we're going to talk season 3 here. So he's in prison. Episodes 8, 9, 10, 11 all air in November. Then episode 12 is the beginning of December, and then they take a couple weeks off because of the, you know, holiday and everything. And then they air one episode on January 10th, which is where he gets put into a coma. And then they go on a hiatus for 2 months. And then they come back with the writers and everything. And he's still stuck in the coma for like 5 episodes. And they do like a weird, shitty, like in his head sitcom thing. And yeah, it's all bad.
Interesting. I think that's a fun, like, cliffhanger bit, like mid-season, just have him go into a coma and then the show stops for like a couple months. So I feel like if I was watching the show live and a fan of it, That would have been fun, at least from an emotional perspective. But yeah, everything kind of writing wise that you're talking about with the season, that I just don't enjoy. Even the stuff in this episode where he's in his own imagination and, he doesn't have an imagination, I guess. He just keeps picturing like that one gymnast or something. So I don't know. And then even like the character placement in this episode too, it's like Randy's working as a guard at the prison, which I don't really understand. And then it's kind of just like completely cut off. It's just Darnell and Joy's story on the other side.
Yeah, Catalina's a
So,
stripper,
yeah, which I feel like, again, and I'm sure there was a ton of stuff in between, but I don't really love Catalina's use in this episode or even the finale episode. I guess it's a little better in the finale episode, but yeah, altogether, just not very good writing, which is, obvious on why that was the case.
Yeah, I agree. This episode specifically is very weak, just kind of jumping into each person's head. It is funny. It's titled creative writing. It's like an episode about being a good writer and coming up with stuff, and all the little individual bits kind of sucked. It gives him a chance to kind of like do a different style in each of the worlds. So like Joy's is animated, which I think is fair. Darnell is singing. Does that work for you?
I feel like it wasn't the actor singing, right? It couldn't have been.
No, I think it was dubbed.
And I feel like it was obvious it was dubbed.
Earl's looks like when Harry Potter gets murdered in the seventh one and he goes to like the afterlife or whatever, and it's just a little dead Voldemort on the ground, and said he has a gymnast jumping around.
True. It also reminds me a lot of an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode, to be fair. But the bit I liked the most out of all those was
my reference was more
Catalina.
culturally, accessible. Nobody watches fucking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Shout out to the lowest rated theme song. But the Catalina like soap opera bit was probably the best. of those
Telenovela,
bits.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I think it was just a fun thing for her, obviously, to kind of go over the top with. And you had other people there as well. Jason Lee. I feel like his mustache got longer, but maybe I was wrong.
Randy's also sucks. Like he's got that weird mascot guy, and then the kind of
Yeah.
David Lynchy horned guy sitting in the corner that is really creepy.
Also, he's got like Ant-Man powers, doesn't he? I don't even understand that half this episode. Or is that a dream?
He does quote "They live" with I'm here to
True.
kick some ass and drink some beers, but it's kind of like a spy show a little bit. And yes, he
Right,
does
that's
shrink
that's
like Ant-Man.
the dream sequence. Yeah. It's hard to even discern like what is actually happening and what's actually not happening this episode. So kind of just all over the place. I mean, we've mentioned like 10 things, and we're probably even missing a few of like the small side bits. So kind of just all over the place. And like you said, for an episode, titled creative writing, just kind of ironic and funny for that aspect.
The thing I do like about it is in the setup, it's about, people in prison, inmates getting a chance to get an education. And I do think that's important. My dad taught college classes, Monday night classes to people
Nice.
at the prison in Indianapolis. So this show, I was like, you
Shout
know
out.
what? Fuck these guys. They're just like him. And Jason Lee deserves a creative writing class, just like everybody. And that's how he got to the Chipmunks.
True. Does your dad armor up as much as the teacher here?
Yeah, definitely. More of a face mask and full arm thing.
Smart. Does he have any people taped up against the wall, or is that not?
A couple of people have
not
definitely got
as fun?
shivved by pens, I'm sure.
That's fair. Yeah, that's probably pretty common.
This episode's so strange, and it's really no wonder that it's the lowest rated. It comes in a bad season already, and just kind of a lot of bits that do not work.
It seems like a low point, but I feel like there's probably worse episodes from what you described to me. So maybe a little bit overhated for this episode.
It has a 6.8 out of 10, which is pretty low in comparison to even a lot of the rest of these. Most of them are all over 7. I think they're all over 7. So
Wow,
tough.
IMDb didn't like it.
Nope. The true curators of content, IMDb.
True.
Finally, the finale, season 4, episode 27, Dodge's dad. Where we go to find out who Earl Jr.'s father is, who's Dodge's dad. In season 4, they're down to only 6 million viewers per episode, which is, a significant decrease from that 10 million average in the first season. However, that is still more than the majority of Parks and Rec's episodes. So this show is still averaging in its final season more than like most Parks and Rec. There's a couple episodes that go over 6 million, but the majority of them are still under this. So a popular hit for sure. And yet it gets canceled and ends on a cliffhanger. What was your first thought when you saw this cliffhanger that it ends on?
I mean, altogether too, I think this is a really fun just season finale. But yeah, it is. It leaves the show in a very interesting place of kind of the dad roles that we had thought throughout the entire series. It's completely swapped. Obviously, it's revealed that Crabman Darnell is not Earl Jr.'s dad, which was a shocking revelation to me. And then it also reveals that Earl is Dodge's dad, which again was a massive shock. Kind of just two bombs to end the series on, and I'm sad it didn't get resolved.
Yeah, obviously, like we've said, they did not think this was going to be the series finale. They just thought it was a season finale. But it is insane that it is not only a cliffhanger, it is literally a cut to black to be continued screen. Like this show also might be the reason I don't watch shows, because I don't want to ever be fucking ruined by something like this, where it's like, I know how bad something can end and how unsatisfactory something can be in a television show, where it's like, why should I even commit to something new? If I don't know for a fact it's ends in a good way and it's fully plotted out, I'm just going to have my heart broken like they did with My Name Is Earl back in 2009.
Oh, this one is stuck with you. I would just ruin TV as a whole for you. Very sad. I think I understand you a lot better now. But yeah, it is very strange, especially like I said, with the to be continued card on that. Like, I don't know how like nobody else even picked it up for like one last season. All these
they
years.
did shop it around. They had talked about TBS was going to maybe pick it up for like a half, like 11 episode season thing, and then that fell through. I think a lot of they said just like creative differences. They were going to have the control they wanted for the last season, so it just never happened.
That is sad they never, we're giving control for their show, but it is what it is.
It is interesting because stuff like Community, like people rallied around, got that final season. Now they're going to do a movie. Like My Name Is Earl, just like Greg Garcia said, every time I go to a pitch meeting, they're always just like, yeah, we don't really have any interest in that, but I don't know. People love it. Bring it back. Not really, but
he needs to bring those viewership numbers to those pitches. But yeah, I mean, again, I feel like if the show was made 10 years later, it would have gotten picked up by somebody else and got its story finished off. So again, kind of was in its prime timing with the viewership numbers, but at the same time, there weren't that many streamers it could have gone to, or that many networks, and be like, hey, you want to do half a season. Probably just because the big ones didn't want their hands on it, and there weren't that many small ones to kind of do that, which sucks. But other than that too, I do like this episode a ton, just because a lot of star power in here. I mean, Norm Macdonald is a massive player, obviously, as Little Chubby, who's also a crazy person, which we can get into, but also just like a pure flash of Burt Reynolds on my screen, which was the first time I'd seen him in the show. Obviously, it seems like these guys were in a couple more episodes beforehand, but just adding those to this cast, I thought, elevated this episode a lot for me.
Yeah, Norm Macdonald is a really fun character. He does appear in a few other episodes as Little Chubby, and has just an insane arc that you kind of get caught up on in this episode, where it's like he loses balls and then gets them back. It's just an absolute psychopath.
It's craziness
as the antagonist here. The rest of this episode as just like it feels weird for a finale. Like, there's not a lot of like list checking off or really anything happening, and you get Darnell reaching up into the toilet to get the hair, but for the most part, I don't know. It's not a good just My Name Is Earl episode either, in my opinion.
Really? You just don't like this episode in general, really?
Just in like as an episode of the show, like take it out even as the season. Yeah. Like I don't think it satisfies what the show sets out to do.
I think it's fine because obviously it's just surrounding around this the Dodge character, which, I mean, from the episodes I've seen, he doesn't get much play in it, to be fair. But as these kids are getting older, I mean, they're maturing more. His classmates are asking the right questions at career day. Like, why do you not have half weekend visitation rights? Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah, they give the kids a lot more play in season 4. I feel like they get some lines and stuff.
Which I guess could be a good thing, but also at the same time, not the best.
Child actors.
We know your thoughts on them. But, Yeah, I like that the storyline is he wants to cross the kid off the list because he ruined his career day once. I think that's a funny flashback. And he wants to find his real father, which I think is an interesting enough storyline for My Name Is Earl episode. Obviously, kind of, I feel like Joy, it's a little bit of the writing too, where I mean, Joy kind of just fucks this whole story up the entire time because it wasn't at a concert, and then she thinks it's this guy, but it's
It's a
also
case
not
of
this
like,
guy.
did they intend for that to be like that the entire time, or are they retconning
No.
it now in the character just because they're like, well, Joy probably would have lied about this. I don't know. It does seem
Yeah.
just kind of like whatever writing.
I don't think it makes sense necessarily for the characters, but like I said, just having Norm Macdonald there be this, the antagonistic figure of this episode, I enjoyed a lot. I mean, he's absolutely insane. He's got bull's nuts on him. A flick of a cow tail, and things might get crazy. Just every one-liner, even the commercial bit at the beginning with Norm Macdonald, I really, really liked. And rip to Norm. He missed the SNL 50, but I got to see something really funny from him that I hadn't seen before. So I'm happy to be introduced to the show just for that alone.
Made watching these 5 episodes worth it. In the very least, maybe you can go back and watch his other episodes. His first appearance is titled 2 Balls, 2 Strikes. So take that how you will.
Sounds like a baseball episode too. I mean, I'm on board. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe bowling. Top 5, Kody. What is your top 5 that you made from watching these My Name Is Earl episodes?
Yeah. So I was thinking, my original thought was top 5 things that they stole, but there wasn't as much. Like even in the pilot, they just like rob a gas station or something. So instead, I went more basic and I went with top 5 guest stars from these episodes. And at number 5, I'm gonna go with my boy Burt Reynolds. Like I said, it was more of just a flash we got of him, in that commercial. And I guess we did see him burn up as well. But I wanted to include him in the list. At number 4, I did go the guy from Prison Break, like you mentioned, Silas Weir Mitchell, Haywire, really fun role in that show, and I enjoyed the stuff that we saw from him here. My number 3 is going to be Carson Daly. I mean, the main man, he invented karma, so he had to make this list. And like I said, I'm very excited to actually go back and watch his episode specifically.
And I was looking, I think so there's an episode, not to spoil, where Randy like becomes the main character and gets his own list. Yeah. And I think he comes back for that, but also online it was saying maybe he doesn't come back in any episodes. So I don't know. I don't want to promise too much Carson Day. That could be wrong here. But in my memory, there's I also thought in the coma episodes he did something, but I guess I'm totally wrong about that. I thought for some reason I remember like Carson Daly like turning to the camera and talking to Earl. Maybe that should just be my pitch here in a second.
I would watch it, so I'm on board either way. He made number 3. Number 2 is my boy Norm Macdonald, just a legend comedically, and he's got a great mustache here, so I love that. And my number 1, I actually don't know if he was in the Y2K episode, but it's Giovanni Ribisi. He's in a bunch of season 1. Just one of my favorite weirdo actors, and
does not appear in these 5 episodes, Kody. That's an iconic number 1. Also, another Scientologist, which is people say another reason this is a Scientologist show. You
keep ruining people for me today, but yeah, I thought he was really funny in every episode that I've seen him in. So he had to make number 1.
Yeah, I mean, Wikipedia's strongest evidence about this being a Scientology show is the fact that high-profile actors like Michael Pena and Giovanni Ribisi appeared as guest stars, notable Scientologists. So,
is Michael Pena a Scientologist? Wow.
You tell me.
Let's go ask.
I don't want to libel anyone.
True. Might have to cut that. What's your top 5?
All right, my top 5, adjacently related. It's just going to be the top 5 Jason Lee performances. So coming in at number 5 is him in all the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies. So we're just going to lump those all together. And these are, of course, only the performances that I have seen from him. So number 5, the Chipmunk franchise. Great stuff from him, but could be better.
Chipwreck got robbed. Yeah, should have been higher.
Well, he fluctuates a little bit in his interest and his desire to be there, I think, and his importance to the story. You get a little bit later, like, do we really need what's his name? Carl? Dave. Yeah. Do we need Dave? Number 4, Chasing Amy, which is another Kevin Smith that he appears in. In this, he plays Ben Affleck's best friend, which is interesting because they're mortal enemies, of course, in the Mallrats movie. But Ben Affleck as the guy who's chasing after Amy really is just in love with Jason Lee, and they have a kind of a realization, a moment of, oh, maybe our relationship means more. Maybe we love each other or have stronger feelings beyond just, two good friends. Number 3, Incredibles Syndrome. Cody, third best performance from Jason Lee. Can't forget that he plays the villain in Incredibles. Number 2 is going to be Mallrats. He gets to play a more central role, and I think gets to show a little bit of emotional depth. He's a dick, but you care for him a little bit, and he's just kind of like a young asshole who hasn't realized that other people are people as well. And then number 1, My Name Is Earl. His best performance. Very great. I think the mustache is probably doing like 80% of the work, but hey, it does good work. I'll tell you that.
Very good list. I haven't seen Chasing Amy. That is next up on my Kevin Smith docket, but I think you nailed it. I do agree. I like Mallrats and his performance there, but I think his peak performance in my eyes is definitely My Name Is Earl as well. So I agree completely.
It's how I met him, and it's how I'll always know him. Let's jump on over to our pitch, Cody. New season, a movie, a lot of different things you could do with My Name Is Earl. I do want to shout out to you what Greg Garcia said his plan was. So
okay,
here you go. This was via a Reddit AMA. We never really got the chance to fully figure it out, but the talk in the writer's room, was that Earl's Jr.'s dad was going to be someone famous, like Dave Chappelle or Lil Jon. Someone that came into town on tour and Joy slept with. But when we got canceled, we never got the chance to figure it out. I was worried about doing a cliffhanger, but I asked NBC if it was safe to do one at the end of the season, and they told me it was. I guess it wasn't. I had always had an ending to Earl, and I'm sorry I didn't get the chance to see it happen. You've got a show about a guy with a list, so not seeing him finish it is a bummer. But the truth is, he wasn't ever going to finish the list. The basic idea of the ending was that while he was stuck on a really hard list item, he was going to start to get frustrated that he was never going to finish it. Then he runs into someone who had a list of their own, and Earl was on it. They needed to make up for something bad they had done to Earl. He asks them where they got the idea of making a list, and they tell him that someone came to them with a list, and that person got the idea from someone else. Earl eventually realized that his list started a chain reaction of people with lists, and that finally he's put more good into the world than bad. So at that point, he was going to tear up his list and go live his life, walk into the sunset a free man with good karma, and finally at peace with what he's accomplished, which I think would have been a really cool ending. It's unfortunate we didn't get to see that. So
first off, I think that's a great pitch. It's brought me to tears on the podcast, Jared, because that is pretty beautiful. But I mean, my ideas are kind of similar. I do just want to see a continuation of this story. And my idea was even reboot it today and just have a fun actor play Earl Jr.'s dad. I was thinking Kevin Hart. I think he would fit perfectly in the cast.
But as Kevin Hart?
Yeah, sure. Or not. Or you can have him like be this rocker character or whatever he wanted to go with there. Maybe it's the music genre. He could be a rapper, put some tears on him and stuff, and you'll be fine. But I think that would be a fun inclusion. And then yeah, that was my thought too, of like I just want to see the resolution of this list. Like where is this going? What is the conclusion? My thought was maybe he becomes like a priest or something. Not a very good pitch. Or maybe he falls in love and has kids, and then his list is to, improve their lives every day. I really just wanted like a happy ending for Earl, and his bro and his crew. So I'm disappointed we didn't see that. But yeah, I mean, it's an easy pitch for a 5th season. Like I said, I don't know how it didn't get picked up, but it pretty much just writes itself, I feel like.
Yeah, I really would have loved to see the intended ending play out. I think they probably could have only gone on for like 1 or 2 more seasons anyways. But if that had happened, it would have been a really nice way to end it. And maybe I would still like TV to this day. So it is unfortunate. I don't think you can bring it, like you couldn't just pick up the story where you left off now, obviously, 20 years later. And I don't think you could like bring this show back in the same way, like I said, where it just feels like a different time for it. But I think it would be fun to do like a modern reboot, but like with the twist where you take like a really rich guy who thinks he's good and then has his life all fall apart from there. And then he has to like, he realizes all the evil things that he's actually been doing as like, maybe a rich insurance CEO or something, or, just some terrible corporation, maybe like a petroleum corporate entity, just some shitty job guy, something bad happens to them and they decide to make amends in kind of like a twisted way where it's like a guy who has a lot of money, making a change in their life, as opposed to the My Name Is Earl, poor guy who's just trying to do the best he can.
Yeah. I like that. I think that would add some new energy to it. But I don't think it would be better than the OG we got with Earl. So I don't know. I don't know if any other IP will ever be made from this, which is sad. But I would be down for a reboot for sure.
Maybe a video game would be fun. I'd take that.
It's just GTA, but with Jason Lee. Yeah.
Nah, you're crossing stuff off the list, man. You're being a good person. You're getting karma points.
Yeah, I guess. If I get to steal a cop car, I'm down.
More or less, Kody. Finally, I think you already spoiled it, but do you want to watch more My Name Is Earl?
I do want to watch more. Yeah, especially
even despite the ending.
I mean, kind of. But the stuff that I want to watch is like season 1 and season 2, and then maybe like some of season 4. So more of the early stuff for me, because I really did enjoy the first season so far. But yeah, it just seems like it regresses a little bit, which is normal for a show like this and kind of the circumstances. But overall, like I said, enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would, and I'm definitely on board for more.
I definitely would recommend watching more than just these 5 episodes. And I probably am not going to, fire up more of it, but I've seen it all. I would say definitely watch the first 2 seasons, check out a couple of the 3rd season, and just watch the whole 4th one.
I'm Downsky. Shout out Earl. My name is Earl.
My life sucks. I'm Judge.
Karma.
That's a different. Well, thank you guys for listening. This has been a fun one. First Friday 5.
What you've just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.